Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 10. I'm Patrick.
Andrew.
Brian.
Ian.
Before we get started, we'd like to first invite you to join us on meeplesonmeeples.com, which brings you to our Facebook page for right now, and Meeples on Meeple, skip the S, at Twitter. Today we're going to be talking about Pitch Car Mini.
Pitch Car Mini is what's called a dexterity game, meaning you physically have to flick or hit your pieces to make them move. Very simple. There's about 5 rules. Rule number 1 is you cannot move your hand forward when pushing your piece. Okay? You have to keep your hand where it is, so that way if you go off the track, that brings us to rule number 2, you go back to where you originally shot from. If your car ends up upside down and there's a sticker so you know which way is right side up on the wooden disc. If you end up upside down, it's a crash, you go back to where you shot from. And if you were to hit somebody else, that's okay, you can bump other cars, but if you bump them and they go off the track, then you go back to your spot, they go back to where they were, and basically you're the only one penalized. You do a 3-lap race, and that's pretty much all of the rules there are right there.
The starting point, it's a staggered start, so you have to decide who's going to be the first car, second car, third car, fourth car in the staggered start. And you decide that by doing a qualifying lap, which means each person does a lap around the track, and the person with the least amount of flicks by the time they get to the checkered flag is the first car, second most flicks is the second car, etc.
It plays 1 to 8. And should we start with the component quality, or?
I think it's component quality for me. The discs, which represent your cards. If you're listening to this, you're not going to get much out of it. But if you're looking at it, there's these discs that represent your card. They're each a different color. They're lighter than the discs that you get with other dexterity type games. It's lighter than most discs that you get with Catacombs, although the smaller discs obviously would be lighter than this, and also with Ascending Empires. But they are a pretty decent weight that allows you to flick and allow adequate movement.
I think the movement piece of it really does help.
I think if they were heavier, the jumps would be harder. Also, I don't think that they'd slide as well, especially when you bumped into the other cars.
I think the flying around actually makes it a lot more fun. A lot more.
The weight works well for this game, I would say.
The tracks themselves are the tracks. We'll talk about the connection points in a little bit, but the tracks themselves are very well made.
Thick, hard.
They have a texture on top
Does
of
it require you to bang them around?
Absolutely. They need to see. They need to hear the.
It has a nice texture that allows the cars to grip to them. So there's a little bit of friction there, so that you don't just go flying around corners without a little bit of resistance. It helps out there. And then you have the rubber bumpers.
Yep. The point on the rubber bumpers I would like to have seen, and sorry, Sir Dick's likes on this one, but if they were color coordinated as far as length, that would be really nice, really a plus as far as setup and to know which lengths go where.
That's true. There are different lengths, and when you set up, it takes a little longer when you're trying to find the right pieces. But if you look here, there's a big difference.
What is there? Only 3 different pieces?
Yeah, because you have to cut some for some of these other pieces.
Or you're actually physically cutting.
Some of just for the inside curve for these double curves.
Well, I guess there's not a non-physical way to cut stuff, so yes, I was.
Yeah, it's physically cutting. It's really nice how they're notched, like puzzle pieces to fit together, and you can flip them around, and it doesn't have any effect on anything, which is kind of nice.
I do like the idea that you can flip it, and then you can adjust where the bumper's going based on the run, as if we have the puck or whatever piece will come through and then bank around and then potentially bank off this way. So you set it to that side. You could really, if you throw it to the other side, I mean, you could offer more hazards.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of, I guess it'd be, vote on gameplay, I guess.
I would say the only downfall to these pieces is that if you don't have it on a flat, hard surface, like the table's nice, but this table actually has creases in it so that it flexes and bends, which then will, put little lips. And if you're going in the direction of the track and it's got that, no big deal, but when you're going the other way and you flick it, your car will catch it and flip over or fly off or whatever.
Come to a dead stop when you have a great shot. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
I do think a carpeted game or this on the carpet would hold better and maybe keep that level a bit more.
Yes, and on a very hard floor, like if you're in an upstairs or an apartment where it could bounce when you're jumping, that could be a problem. But like we are in a basement with concrete floors to where it's not going anywhere.
The one thing I don't like, and it's a minor complaint, but the ramps themselves actually have a built-in lip on the side of it. Just for the transition point, if you run your fingers around it, you can actually see the lip.
I think that's just your complaint because you were the one that screwed up.
Well, actually, I screwed up here on the bumper over here.
You were last.
Many failed jumps.
Yes. Now the first game I got third. Last game I was last. But this has been
badly.
badly. Almost twice.
Yeah.
But there has been a couple of talks on the forums, on Board Game Geek and other places where the ramps do have a little lip on them, where your cars, if you have a great shot, can catch on them a little bit. And
Why is that not
crazy
laminated? I mean, I
That's
think
a
that
good
would be.
question.
I think that's your missing.
So I went on the forums and said, "Is it possible?" Because it's almost cardboardish, but thicker. I don't know what to call this. But I said, "Well, could you sandpaper it maybe?" And people said that the people they had heard of who tried to sandpaper these and made it too slick, and then they just went flying off the ramp at super high speeds. So this kind of texture actually helps to slow it down.
Should've
Because as it
fiberboard.
was, we were flying pretty crazily. So supposedly that actually is good to kind of slow it before it goes up into the air.
Oh, sure.
But the workaround is just take a regular deck of playing cards and put about 2 cards underneath the track piece right before it joins up with the ramp, so it's lifted up a little bit, and we didn't have a problem. It fixes it.
What is the age range up for this type of game?
I think the box says 8 and up. I mean,
You'd almost think like a 3-year-old could
Yeah.
actually go and play. I mean,
well, that'll come in my scoring. My 5-year-old loves this game.
well, your
she loves it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's a great family game. Rules are simple enough. It's a dexterity game, and actually for smaller children, going back to that, great eye-hand way to work on eye-hand coordination, fine motor skills too, because they actually have to flick and position their fingers, so it really requires them to work on
That's
that.
why I'm terrible at this game.
Well, you're terrible. I got laughed. What are you talking about? I got smoked on this. A couple other things that we talked about with setup is some of these curves have a really narrow neck that goes that exits wide, and then some have
Just
wide
the double
entry.
ones
The
here.
double ones.
Down there is a very
Yeah, sometimes it just seems like they were when they cut them. It was not a perfect geometric cut in that we have different entry and exit
I wonder if
sizes.
that was by design.
Actually,
It could be.
it's. I looked at it, and it's because of the way that the pieces sit. That when they actually cut the notch, you'd have to cut the piece shorter to actually physically do.
Do a straight
Yeah,
shot.
so that it would be exactly even. Because I looked at the couple different
Oh, sure.
ones, and that's because when you're coming around, if you were going to do that, it would cut into where it actually clicks together. So
Okay,
that's why
but
it's like
my
that.
question is, besides, excuse me, making it slightly harder, was that ever really a total
I was
game
saying for
breaker
how
that
many-
killed somebody?
But
But you were hitting the end, though. It had nothing to do with the fact that the road got too narrow. You were just
I wouldn't
plain old
say it's
shooting into the
harder.
wall.
Right, so this is more of you being bad at the game versus.
Thanks for reminding me of
Yeah,
that.
no, I will. Every point I will point that.
There's
out.
only one thing that I really didn't like was this one right here with the 2 pieces. Like you can see, well, you can kind of see this car sits like right in here. It's kind of a flaw because you could hit this and slide right into the corner. You know, if this started where this one ended, where it kind of slid around, I think it would be a lot better. But otherwise, you can get jammed in there pretty easy.
And that
I think
did
it happened
happen.
almost
And then I had to do a little,
I took the lead on that.
that's how you won. And I ended
Exactly,
up,
that
I
was
took a little baby step
amazing.
in, and then the next time I could follow the road around. Because, you
Right.
have to hit it in gently and then follow the
Well,
curve.
I mean, you were. I think I had somebody blocking me here to the entry, so I had to actually bank around
Well,
and through and around.
Little time,
So-
are we kind of talking strategies now? We gonna
No.
shift gears here?
No, no.
or-
Well, the one thing
I'm ready to go because
Yeah.
we've beat
Yeah.
to death. The
Well, no.
quality is good.
We did forget.
It's a good game.
We did forget one of the rules, which is you can jump as well. I mean, you can jump markers for if my individual's here around the corner and I flipped and it went off the track and then rolled onto the track again. As long as I don't skip more than 2 racetrack parts, it's a fair shot.
For instance, if you're watching the video, you could, if you were really lucky,
Okay.
try to shoot from here to here instead of trying to go through the little bottleneck if people are blocking your way, which happens a lot. Then you just shoot and you can jump, because I jump 1-2 spots, land over here, that's fine. But you can't skip more than 2 pieces. of track.
Oftentimes, most of the time, it was by accident with us.
Oh, yeah, I
it's
think
cool
it's a
when
luck
it occurs. But supposedly there are people who can actually pinpoint that pretty accurately. We're
I don't
we're
have 8
definitely
hours
not
to
in
play
there.
this game.
But don't you think that this could become a game of, like, that's what I like about this game, is it is skill. You don't sit there and ponder and there's strategy. No, it's, I had a lousy shot, I totally hit it too hard, or I hit the wrong angle, bounced off it. I think you could get to the point where you were pretty good. You could do some trick shots
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
on
like I
purpose,
said, yeah,
not lucky.
you'd
like
have to
us.
play it a lot.
Downfall is setup time. I would say it does take a bit of time to kind of put the pieces there, look at the track board. Plus, you had track pieces or track diagrams that we'd wanted to try, but you didn't have enough pieces for it. Even though you had an expansion,
Yeah, I don't know why they had the picture
It's either you
that
maybe
expansion.
just didn't get enough parts. If somebody has more game pieces, please send them to
No,
Brian.
we love them, yeah.
There's actually a point. This is Pitch Car Mini because Cheapskate here didn't want to go for the full pitch car. The actual full pitch car comes with a lot more race or a bit more racetrack. You can buy more.
Well, no, it's just
track.
bigger. It's 1/3 larger.
Yeah.
And as you can
Are we
see,
talking width of the thing, or
No.
actually more pieces?
More pieces.
complete. No, it doesn't come with more
Well, I mean,
pieces.
but-
It comes with the same as they're just larger.
Larger, yeah, and it takes up more space.
Yes,
So
yes.
you would need a lot of. I mean, as you can see already, I haven't used all the pieces I have because I have the base game and 2 expansions. By the way, definitely get the one with ramps. That was probably the most fun of the game right there. It really makes the game.
My only question about this is, could you design your own track from all
Absolutely.
pieces? I mean, just make it up as you go. I mean,
As-
instead of following the diagram.
It comes with diagrams where you can make 11, and I think you could probably make more. And then you get the expansions, and I bet you we could easily probably make 20 to 25 different tracks with the base set and the 2 expansions.
I mean, that's a good quality, is that you can change it up quite often instead of just following the same ones like in Formula D, where you have to buy the specific expansion
Well,
to play the different track that this is.
with the comparison to Formula D, would this game be made better or different if there was options for debris and for you have to pit or things like that to bring more complexity to it? Because it is a very simple, just straight up, you have to walk around the board and continue to flick in order. I mean,
So the
there
question
is
is that part of the charm or is that a detractor? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, to a point. I mean, I every once in a while, I mean, I was dominating the game, so for the
No,
most part, they have
first
pit
place.
stuff. and-
First game, first place, right?
Yeah, well, by
Yeah, with
equal.
debris and things, I think it would be fun, but you'd have to, I mean, it would have to be, you'd have to have your little board, this and that, and if you bumped into somebody, then you both take damage or whatever, but I think that would take away from the fun of the game, because it's just fun, it's light, I mean, you bump into each other on purpose, because you're like, oh, I'm going to bump him just off to the side, so he gets stuck.
I mean, I was just thinking, like, you put double-sided tape in the section.
It's,
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about strategy now. About when I can't talk much about strategy because I did get third once by accident.
Maybe you could
last game I got lapped.
Maybe you could tell what we were doing.
What I was doing
yeah,
wrong-
obviously as an observer,
Yeah.
observer of fine play.
not to do.
What not to do? I got right next to this board right here, and I was always trying to make it to this corner, and I'd always, no matter how I flicked it, I would always hit the side of this. So rather than going for a short shot and then shooting it in, I was over and over trying to bounce it around and go around the curve, and I'd always hit this and come off or bounce off, or I was never ever.
Well, that's
to
one
make it.
strategy. You don't bounce the curve, play the curve. The pieces kind of hug it and then naturally
Well,
follow it if you hit it just
But
right.
my character was right over. My car was right over
Yeah,
there, so I
you
couldn't really.
you'd actually shoot more.
I actually
Yeah.
did that quite a few times where you literally shoot it like this,
Yeah,
and,
and
it
And
will,
it will follow if you get it
I
right.
mean, it may not hit the next one and shoot out, but at least you'll be in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
kind
of
of like-
off the track, off the track, off the track, off the
Actually,
track.
no,
Oh, they all
it's a
passed
good
me off the
position
track.
to
It's
Off the track.
actually a more bounce back. I could just never get the.
I think we're
the right
playing more
curve.
of a pool angles. I mean, honestly, or bumper pool angles to the pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of helped out a lot.
And maybe it's because these are rubbery and bend flexible, but they do kind of give a nice little bounce and
They do, yeah.
it plays well off of them.
Any other strategy points?
Don't go for the power. I think every time we played one track where we had a ramp, a gap, flat, another ramp, so it was ramp right away, and we were all just trying to jump them both off of one shot.
I think
Which
And-
is possible.
Yeah,
but
we've
very
done- we
hard.
did it.
But we failed way more often than we succeed because we were trying to overpower it. Like, oh, it's a straightaway, watch this, and then it would just go and hit the wall across the room.
I think it was my qualifying round that everybody's kind of like, oh, that's possible. And so it just.
And then after that,
yeah,
it didn't happen.
everybody, anybody that tried it just didn't work out for them. I think we had one more successful, and that might have been you at the very
Yeah,
end.
right at the end. That's
was,
why I won, I
yeah.
think. But
You jumped ahead of me. and
It
that
was really so strategy. Do not try to power through and to do your hardest at all by any
They-
means.
Oh, the turns. Didn't we have a little bit of a question about the turns as to?
That's true. The one thing that was unclear in the directions, it says, you play in order. So first you qualify, and then first person. Now in Formula D and a lot of racing games, whoever's in first place in the lead becomes the new player one at the end of the round, and everybody takes a turn, and then whoever's player one. So we weren't sure if you should play that way, or whoever was player one at the beginning of the game is player one every round from there on. So that was kind of
That just seems
questionable.
unfair, though, because then the person, if you're in last, you can just hit people and basically just bust your way back up to the front without giving everybody a chance to advance.
So we want the Formula D rule. If
Right.
you're in the lead, you're now the new player one.
And I think it
Makes
plays
sense.
better that way. I just think the other way could be really confusing.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because as somebody gets into the lead, you have to remember that who the first place person was, and it can get you kind of confused about where everybody's at.
And there was
Get a Sharpie, write your position on your hand so you remember.
Oh, markers.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else want to cover that?
Well, basically, you're here, you flick it. Okay, yeah, I'm looking here now. Say I flipped over and popped off the track. Well, try to remember where you're at.
Let me flick it. I can get it to happen.
Yeah, you can crash every flick.
But and then trying to put it back in the same spot. We used pens just because we had, but little markers indicating with the same color would be really nice to have and put like right next to the track, so you
Off
can
to
kind
the
of have a
side,
good
yeah.
reference of where you were.
I used a penny just to put a penny on which side of the track I was in and my location on the track. So if I knew if I was more inside, more outside, just to mark my location.
Nice.
Yeah, he tried to cheat and it still didn't work.
So yeah.
We were gonna give him another lesson.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing people say online is that this game can suffer from the runaway leader. We did not experience that, but
I experienced it.
where if somebody gets way too far ahead, you'll never catch up to them.
I think that's.
We did have somebody get way ahead, but then we caught up.
Yeah, we did catch up. Especially that first game. Somebody was way in the lead, and then eventually, I was last at one point in the first game, and I somehow came in third with that game.
But I mean, don't you think it is possible that somebody could just
if you had somebody who was
either really amazing lucky or skill shots?
Yeah, if somebody was really good at this, it would be more frustrating than fun. If somebody was playing this a lot and they knew all the trick shots and they could get things to bounce just right, and they were masters of it, it'd be like playing with the pool shark.
Right.
You would have no hope. You
But
would
I
just
think
be sitting there.
I
and
think
just,
you get that in any game though. I mean, where people are just going to be naturally better.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you ever play the paper football game, I mean, you have people that are very good at judging distance, and they have a lot of time in study hall. I mean, honestly.
spend way too much time in detention or
Exactly.
whatever.
I mean,
So-
who's a league leader in like NASCAR?
I have no idea.
You,
I don't know.
NASCAR
Earnhardt.
fans
Let's go Earnhardt or whatever. Like you always have an Earnhardt, and then you have your Danica
Earnhardt's
Patricks.
not doing good this year.
Yeah. Like I know, like I care.
Like it's even a real sport. Come on.
Meeples.com.
You got your Earnhardts that do really well, and you got your Danica Patricks where they don't do very well at all, and they're just.
Hey, she's a woman in a man's sport. You gotta give her props for that.
I mean, your
It's
first
like being a female firefighter. It's difficult.
Wasn't she the first one?
Oh my,
the
did you
first
just
woman that
say
she was
that?
out, like the first NASCAR round that she ever did, a NASCAR race.
Meeples
Yeah,
on
she spun it and-
Meeples.com. Right early, right often. Before we get too much
Take it away,
more-
Danica.
should
Let's
we,
go with the reviews.
Let's go with the review before we get too much hate mail.
Okay, we have a
Alright.
scale 1 to 10. 1 is terrible, 5 is eh, and then 10, amazing. Everyone should have in their collection.
I would say 5's the middle of the road, not a mid.
Yeah, well, it's
Mid
like-
is like
it's an
3.
average. It's an
I would say
average.
3 would be.
It's like,
mid.
did you like the game? Eh, it's okay.
Yeah, 5 is if it hit the table again, I'd play it. I wouldn't be begging for it.
As
but-
much as we trust our own scale system, 1 to 10, it's pretty basic.
I'm
You
gonna
got
do
it.
stars. Screw you guys.
Clowns and
Unicorns.
puppies. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Anyway, I would give it a 7. I didn't think I was gonna like it. I made fun of it a lot. I played through the first time and it was really fun. It's really engaging. You're up around the table. You don't just sit down. I mean, I suppose you could, but there's a lot of reaching then. And we were just walking around, giving each other crap about stuff. And I mean, just the gameplay itself is it's trickier than you think. You think, oh, I'm just gonna flick it and it's just gonna do this, and then next thing you know, you're somewhere where you didn't have any clue, or you bump somebody off, and you're just. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna give it a 7. And when I first looked at it, I was gonna give it like a 3. So
Oh, I could tell when I was setting it up. I could tell what you thought of it. When I was sitting here like, oh my
I thought it was stupid, but overall, after playing it, it was a lot of fun. So don't judge it by the box.
Okay, my turn. Well, as a parent, I think it's a great game. Children can play. It's a fairly easy game. It's a very light game. You can pick it up. You can play it. You can play it quickly with your group. If you have a lot of back and forth, it can be a lot of fun. I've said this before too, though. For really hardcore gamers, and this has been said before, this is gonna be a niche game. You're gonna see it. You're gonna say, it's cute. It's a one-trick pony. You flick. You go around a track. That's all it is. And so it's fun. From my point of view, it's fun as children. It's a fun family game. There's just not enough meat for me in it. Not a lot. There's no strategy. It's all dexterity. Very little strategy of thought pattern other than okay, I have to bank it. But there's not really anything else you can do. There's no other aspect to the game other than flicking it and trying to make the right shots. So because of that, I give it about. I think about a 6 right now is what I would give it. It's nice. It's niche. It's there, but it just doesn't have enough meat for me.
What can you define like hardcore gamer? As
Hardcore
do you
gamers-
consider yourself a hardcore
Yes,
gamer?
yeah. That's somebody who likes a really detailed strategy games, Gears of War, which hasn't come up. Which, a lot of people on this, we haven't, that's our lost episode. Didn't rate it well. It rates really high on the game. I'm the type of person who likes that type of game, who likes Gears of War, Games of Thrones, War of the Ring, those really, really hardcore depth games.
But okay, let me ask you, so you really don't think that a game that can be played in like 30 minutes...
It's cute.
Between games, are you like, we don't have time for another hardcore game, but we can still have a ton of
That's
fun.
just it. It's a niche game.
Everybody, but you need these kind of games in your collection.
It's a niche.
Is this like Shoots and Ladders or like
No. That's story. That's 2. No, this is a niche game. It's fun. It's 6. I'd play it when it hits the table. I wouldn't be begging for it. I wouldn't go out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be begging for it. I wouldn't go out for it. It's a niche game. It plays. It does what it needs to do, but it's just not. It doesn't have any of the real need that I was. Yeah.
Doesn't float your boat.
Doesn't float your boat.
Alright,
But it's good. It's 6. It just doesn't. It's not something that I'm rabid about.
As a dad, I would rate this probably higher than normal because, like I said, my 5-year-old loves this game and asks for it, and she doesn't really have a lot of patience. She's not really into games. So when we played it one night and then the very next day she was asking to play it again, I thought that was pretty cool. And she's 5. And that's one reason that I did get Pitch Car Mini is I had read online that the regular Pitch Car being a lot bigger was harder for little kids to compete with adults because you had a much bigger track to get around and they just couldn't move the pieces as far. I mean, the cars, everything's bigger, so it is kind of cool looking.
Like
but
we're talking like
you would have to set up the big... how big's your head?
we're talking
But you would have to, for the bigger tracks, you need... I've seen people with multiple tables stretched out around a room or taking up the entire floor. So
really?
For space sake and for kids, this is the way to go. So as a dad, I think that's awesome that kids can play it. And I know that it came up that setup takes a long time. But if you really stop and think about it, guys, one, I started setting up this one track to realize I didn't have pieces. So we had to scrap that, set up a new track. We did a qualifying lap for 5 people, played a 5-player game, changed and made a new track, did another 5-player game, 3 laps, and it was still like an hour and 15 minutes. 2 setups and 2 games in an hour and 15. And that's not bad at all, really, all things considered. Yeah, it's a little longer than most, but... I really enjoy the game. I like the fact that it's life. We were laughing the entire time.
Oh yeah.
It gets you up and moving. It was a little bit crazy. So I'd go, I think, an 8. If I didn't have kids, I might be at a 7. I'm not gonna lie. But because my daughter loves to play it and it gives me something game. Because I do have some of those hardcore games. It gives me something I can play with the kids. So it's an 8.
You rate this as equal to Formula 40?
No, I gave Formula D a 9.
Okay.
So
and
that has more
we all
strategy.
gave that a 4.
No,
so.
you guys gave it 7.
Oh,
yeah, nice try.
It was okay.
No, they're two very different games.
No, I just didn't know what it was compared to.
I think you need to have a light game like this. It's good to have something goofy and different.
It's a niche.
So I like it.
All right. I would give this game an 8 or even close to a 9. I'm
boy.
not a this time around, and Formula D comes up and kill him.
Well, yeah.
For the most part, I'm not a hardcore gamer. I would say very, very green, very novice when it comes to this stuff. It was fun to play. I mean, in the setup and the presentation originally, it lacked. It seemed like it needed more. It needed more, heart to it, I guess.
2 converts though, for the record.
All right,
I'm 2 for 2 tonight.
It was fun to play. The guys here are great to kind of muck around with, and they had a lot of gas, so it was a lot of farting jokes, or I don't know, tooting. I guess we can't say fart. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are on that stuff. But
where are we going with this now?
Anyways, well, the one thing that kind of keeps it back from me even going to the 9-10 route is just I don't know how long I can play this game and continue to play like round after round. Even 3 laps seemed to be getting a little long. I was kind of maybe I'm ADHD a little bit, but I was kind of thinking I don't think I could do 3 sets of this game. 2 sets was great, and then that was that'd be it for the night. To play this the 3rd time might be just a little bit.
It would be I could see this being like a big hit if you were to take this to like a frat house.
Oh yeah.
And they're all drinking beers and they can feel like the whole weekend with this.
Could you make this?
Assuming they're all 21. Assuming
that they're not on a dry campus, of course, which most colleges are.
I think we should have put money down
like
on
that
corners
average stop college.
I'm just saying.
But don't you think that's kind of, wouldn't that be like the target audience for something like this?
Yeah.
It's like young guys goofing around having fun.
Everybody out there playing beer pong, drop it.
This is it.
This is
is
where
it
it's
right
at,
here.
right here. The future.
The future of beer pong is.
So your
Flipping
final
the-
number was you were wavering 8 or 9.
I'll go with an 8 just because
Every time your car went off, you take a drink.
there is that very big drop off for fun to experience to time kind of limit there. It's just
2 races was good.
2 races would
That was
good.
about
3
right.
would be pushing it. 4 definitely would be daunting and not fun at all. But this was a good game.
Well, there you have it. Our thoughts on Pitch Car Mini. Next week we are playing
Stone Age.